Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Rebecca Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan El Rome.
In our top story, Fiji and the Democratic Republic of the Congo have announced that they are moving their embassies to the Israeli capital of Jerusalem. The president of the DRC met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly and confirmed that his country's diplomatic mission will relocate to the Holy City. Fiji sent a major delegation to Israel last week in advance of its embassy move to Jerusalem in 2024. The group consisted of more than 250 evangelical Christians, along with the deputy prime minister of the Pacific Island nation. They traveled together on Fiji Airways' first ever direct flight to the Jewish state. So far, the United States, Guatemala, Honduras, Kosovo, and Papua New Guinea have established embassies in Jerusalem. And last month, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Paraguay announced that they will build their diplomatic missions in the eternal capital of Jerusalem as well.
Normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia is rapidly advancing. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman announced that every day we get closer to establishing ties. In a huge sign of warming relations, the kingdom hosted Israeli Tourism Minister Chaim Katz, who participated in a conference of the UN World Tourism Organization. This is the first time a government minister of Israel has visited Saudi Arabia in an official capacity. The oil-rich Gulf state is under growing threat from Tehran, which has supported attacks by Iranian-backed Houthi rebels from neighboring Yemen. The royal family has found itself increasingly aligned with Jerusalem, but faces enormous pressure to advance the Palestinian cause. A high-level Saudi delegation visited Ramallah recently and met with PA leader Mahmoud Abbas. This is seen as an effort by Riyadh to pacify the Palestinians ahead of the announcement of an agreement with Jerusalem. The Biden administration has been working to broker a deal between Israel and Saudi Arabia that includes plans for a Palestinian state within the borders of Israel. Rebecca has more on that.
Yes, Yochanan, the Biden administration is pressuring Jerusalem to make major concessions to the Palestinians, including the creation of an Arab terror state within the borders of Israel. The Palestinian Authority has found the current U.S. government receptive to its cause and is demanding that Washington rescind congressional legislation characterizing the Palestinian Liberation Organization as a terror group. It is insisting on unilateral recognition of Palestinian statehood at the United Nations, as well as the opening of a Palestinian U.S. consulate in the Israeli capital of Jerusalem. The PA is also demanding that communities in the biblical heartland of Judea and Samaria be transferred to PA control.
The Israeli Mossad is being blamed for an explosion at an underground ballistic missile base in Iran. The Iman Ali fortified facility is one of two underground missile silos in the radical Islamic Republic. It produces Shahab-3 medium-range rockets. Experts believe the new generation of this advanced missile can be equipped with a nuclear warhead and is capable of reaching the Jewish state. Israel has not commented on its involvement in this incident, but Jerusalem has repeatedly warned that it will not allow Iran to obtain the capabilities to harm its citizens.
7 paintings stolen during World War II have been returned to the heirs of Viennese Holocaust victim Fritz Grunbaum after a 25-year legal battle. In 1938, Grunbaum and his wife were arrested by the Nazis, and their extensive art collection was confiscated. They both later died in concentration camps. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office took possession of the paintings, worth an estimated $9.5 million earlier this year. All of the portraits were voluntarily surrendered by their owners after they were presented with evidence proving they were stolen by the Nazis.
The Israel Defense Forces unveiled its newest armored vehicle powered by artificial intelligence. The Barak tank will be incorporated into the Armored Corps' 52nd Battalion. Operators will be equipped with Elbit Systems' Iron Vision helmet, which will allow them to see through the tank's armor into the field, providing them with 360-degree battlefield awareness and the ability to navigate in different terrains, including in urban areas. Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant hailed the new era ushered in by the Barak tank. He called it an extraordinary leap and a clear expression of the technological capabilities that continually enhance and secure the qualitative edge of the IDF, both in defense and offense.
The United States Treasury has issued another round of sanctions aimed at crippling the Iranian-backed Hezbollah terror group. The Treasury Office of Foreign Assets Control and the Drug Enforcement Administration have designated several South American businessmen as supporters of Hezbollah. OFAC and the DEA found that several organizations, including a coal export company, were funneling money to the terror group. Brian E. Nelson, the Undersecretary of the Treasury for Terrorism and Financial Intelligence, announced that the move underscores the U.S. government's commitment to pursuing Hezbollah operatives and financiers, no matter their location.
A teenage girl from the Gaza Strip has received a groundbreaking heart procedure in Israel through the Save a Child's Heart organization. This humanitarian group works to bring children with heart conditions to Israel for life-saving procedures. The 18-year-old patient from the Gaza Strip was implanted with a miniature pacemaker the size of a fingertip. For the first time in Israel, the life-saving device was installed through the patient's neck directly into her heart. The procedure was a success, and the patient has fully recovered. Save a Child's Heart has saved nearly 7,000 children from over 70 different countries and has trained more than 150 doctors in life-saving heart procedures.
Archaeologists excavating at a site in the outskirts of Jerusalem have discovered quarries and an ancient stonemason's workshop. The civil administration was carrying out mandatory excavations ahead of the planned construction of a highway in the area of Adam near the Chizmeh Junction when they discovered the stone production center dating to the Second Temple period. They believe the site was the center for quarrying, production, and distribution of stoneware for Jerusalem and the surrounding areas.
Jews around the world are celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles, which began at sundown on Friday night. The book of Leviticus, chapter 23, details the commandment to dwell in tabernacles for 7 days as a reminder of the Exodus from Egypt and the 40 years spent wandering through the desert. It's truly a special time in Israel where makeshift booths can be seen in yards, porches, and patios. The Bible instructs Jews to take up the 4 species, the lulav or palm branch, citron or etrog, myrtle, and willow branches. Jews can be seen walking in the streets holding the 4 species in fulfillment of the commandment. Hundreds of thousands of Christians have traveled to the holy city of Jerusalem in fulfillment of Zechariah's prophecy, which says, "It shall come to pass that all nations will come up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles." Rebecca has more on that.
The International Christian Embassy Jerusalem is hosting the Feast of Tabernacles in Jerusalem, which has become the State of Israel's largest annual Christian tourist event. Tens of thousands of Christian believers flood the holy city to pray and show support for the Jewish state. In one of the biggest signs of Christian solidarity with Israel, Jews and Christians will join together for the Jerusalem March, where they will parade through the streets of the undivided capital of Israel on their way to the Western Wall. Groups walk together by nation, holding the flags of their respective countries and singing songs of praise and love for the Jewish state.
The Israel Allies Foundation has published its annual list of Israel's top 50 Christian allies in honor of the Sukkot holiday. This prestigious and diverse roll call of honor spans many continents and denominations and includes prominent activists and leaders from religious and political spheres. Former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo topped the list this year. He was honored for his outstanding support of the undivided Israeli capital Jerusalem, the Golan Heights, and the biblical heartland of Judea and Samaria. In second place was Jair Bolsonaro, the president of Brazil, who has unapologetically supported the Jewish state and brought the relationship between Israel and Brazil to new heights. Another distinguished honoree is Joni Lamb, the co-founder of the Daystar Network. She was recognized for her tireless support and advocacy for Israel, as well as her care for Holocaust survivors through the Daystar House of Hope. Josh Reinstein, the president of the IAF, said, "We are honored to recognize incredible men and women of faith from across the world. They are Israel's greatest friends and most loyal allies, and due to their years of hard work, we are seeing a burst of pro-Israel activity which reaches the highest levels of government." He added that the impact of their support is truly limitless. You can view the entire list of Israel's top 50 allies at israelallies.org. That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Joseph Gitler. He is the head of Leket. Joseph, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Joseph, tell our viewers a little about what is Leket.
So Leket, first of all, is a biblical term, which was an ancient commandment telling farmers how they had to take care of the poor in ancient times by leaving a corner of their fields, you may recall, or not picking up crops that fell off their wagons. So we've modernized that for the food economy of 2023, where we just waste incredible amounts of food in the Western world, Israel included, the land of milk and honey. And we make sure to find ways to get that food and transport it to those who need it through our network of 276 feeding agencies throughout the state of Israel.
Well, so how does it actually work? Because it's a tremendous initiative. You're actually feeding many, many Israelis, but how do you do it on such a large scale?
Right, so we're feeding about 250,000 Israelis every week. And we have two main projects. One, working very closely with the hotel industry, the catering industry, the IDF, to make sure that their excess meals don't go to waste. And so we have small refrigerated vans with drivers who drive around the country day in, day out and pick up that food and then distribute it. And then far bigger than that is the work we do with the farming community, which is such a beautiful thing, making sure that excess fruits and vegetables that aren't being marketed for a whole variety of reasons don't rot in the fields. And again, through the volunteers, over 50,000 in our last year, working in tandem with our staff, making sure that we will distribute about 75 million pounds of fruits and vegetables this year.
I mean, it's a massive operation, as you mentioned, 250,000 people. How do you identify the people that need the food and then get it directly to them?
Right, so we work, like most food banks around the world, we made a decision on day one that we would work through existing agencies, soup kitchens, homeless shelters, battered women's shelters, after-school clubs for kids, subsidized housing for the elderly, you name it, places that are doing God's work, helping the poor and need help. They need money, they need volunteering, and we're bringing them food, which they all use either as the core of their mission or as part of a bigger picture, like educating kids, where if you give them a hot meal, they may come, stick around to get that hot meal and hopefully be able to achieve what they hadn't thought they could achieve beforehand.
Last year we had Shemitah. We had to let the ground lie fallow. How did that affect your work?
So each Shemitah cycle, and this is the third since Leket started, it becomes a little more impactful. And so more and more Israeli farmers in each cycle are leaving the land fallow, but it's still a minor issue for us at this point. And I guess the proof in the pudding is that last year we broke a record again in the amount of crops that we distributed. So I love that commandment. I think it shows incredible faith, but still there are only a small percentage of farmers keeping it at this point.
We're now in the time of the Feast of Tabernacles. It's Sukkot, and part of it is the feast. And how are you able to help families during this holiday season get the food they need?
Right, so the holiday season is the busiest season for Leket. And that's not because people don't need food when it isn't the holiday season. The people we serve sadly need food help all year round. But there's a big push around the holiday season. And as you mentioned, the word feast, we want the needy in Israel to feel good about themselves, to feel part of a community that has such bounty in the country. And so we make an extra special push during the holiday season to expand our offering. So I'll give one example. We're right now in the biggest operation in our history of the entire Leket, of the 20 years we've been around. We are picking and redistributing over 3,000 tons. That's nearly 7 million pounds of apples for the holiday season. A massive, massive operation. But what could be more beautiful than giving apples to the needy in the state of Israel for the season of the apple?
Christian support for Israel is so important. There are thousands of Christians here volunteering and helping the land. Are Christians coming to you and saying, how can we get involved?
They certainly are. I would love to see more of them. We love the Christian groups because I would say there's no one more committed when they come to volunteer than the Christian groups. It's actually the most magnificent thing to see how excited people get working in the fields, connecting with the land, knowing that they're working and helping the poor at the same time, and also in our distribution center. So if the word can get out to more Christian groups, we have almost unlimited volunteering capacity, and we'd love to see more Christian groups coming and helping us.
You talk about a lot how this is biblical, how this is important in the Bible to help those who are less fortunate to get involved with the land of Israel. As a practicing Jew, is this something that you see as a calling?
Certainly. I mean, I always think about the fact that, technically these commandments, gleaning, leaving a corner of your field, they technically don't exist until there's a temple. And so, the opportunity to kind of bring them back, at least from the spirit of the law, certainly is, I consider it, an achievement, an honor to be able to do what God intended in the modern state of Israel, helping the poor in a way that's utilizing resources that exist. And of course, let's not forget, there's another commandment. I call it the most forgotten commandment in the Bible. I'll say it in Hebrew and translate, bal tashchit, not wasting. The modern Western societies, we have forgotten that commandment. And so being able to be involved in, talking about that and achieving that and using food waste to feed the poor, again, is something that I'm really excited about on a daily basis within my faith.
Joseph, there are literally tens of millions of people watching the show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
So I would say, please come visit Israel. We need people to come and see what's going on here. And when you're here, please take the opportunity to volunteer with Leket, see what the situation is, see how you can help. And of course, you can help with your hands, you can help with your checkbooks, and come and see us here in the state of Israel. We're waiting for you.
Thank you, Joseph, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, wishing you a happy Feast of Tabernacles. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the truth from Zion.
In 2023, a momentous event captured the world's attention. Israel received a visit from an Iranian leader of great importance. Reza Pahlavi, the son of the late Shah, journeyed to Jerusalem and made a lasting impact. It was the first visit by a member of the Pahlavi royal family to Israel in decades. Israel has not had diplomatic relations with Iran since the Islamic Revolution of 1979.
This historic event held immense significance in fostering bridges and collaboration between our two nations.
Pahlavi is Iranian by birth. He moved to Cairo, Egypt with his family when his father was sent into exile. He was 18 years old at the time. Today, the Crown Prince lives in Virginia in the United States. Pahlavi stepped off the plane at Ben Gurion Airport on April 17, 2023, along with his wife, Yakima. The visit was meant to emphasize unity between Israel and the Iranian people, highlighting a glimmer of the past, a time when Israel and Iran had strong relations.
The Crown Prince visited Israel as a member of the Cyrus delegation with a mission to promote democracy, human rights, and the restoration of the historical relations between Iran and Israel.
That diplomacy was destroyed in 1979 when the Ayatollah Khomeini forcefully took over Iran and turned it into an Islamic tyranny. Pahlavi and his wife were welcomed by Israel's intelligence minister, Gila Gamliel.
In this historic visit, we took the initial step towards rebuilding the cultural, economic, political, and personal bonds between our nations.
Pahlavi spoke about his dedication to working toward a peaceful future for the region and doing it with friendship.
I am more than thrilled to have had this opportunity to travel to Israel for the first time. And I know that Iranians and Israelis see how important it will be for our future to be our strategic partners.
Pahlavi tweeted, "Thank you, President Isaac Herzog, for your warm welcome of words and friendship toward the Iranian people." Pahlavi visited Yad Vashem on Israel's Holocaust Remembrance Day to sympathize with the Jewish people. It was in bold contrast to the rulers of Iran, who routinely deny the Holocaust as one of their ways to encourage anti-Semitism.
And today, when we have a regime that denies that the Holocaust ever occurred, it was my duty to be here representing my fellow compatriots.
Pahlavi spoke about the importance of keeping the memory of Holocaust victims alive. After the ceremony, the Crown Prince met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his wife Sarah. Minister Gamliel praised Pahlavi's visit as a significant show of support from a high-ranking Iranian figure.
אני חושבת שהביקור הזה הוא מאוד מאוד חשוב. הוא בעיניי הצעד הראשון למהפכה האמיתית שתהיה. אני מרגישה את זה שזו הדרך הנכונה להתחיל ולהגיע חזרה לקירוב הלבבות בין העמים, שהוביל בסופו של דבר לשינוי המהותי בהנהגה.
He also spent time meeting with Israeli officials and visiting historic sites like the Western Wall and the Baha'i Gardens in Haifa. Reza Pahlavi's visit to Jerusalem has stirred great excitement. Many are hopeful about potentially shifting political dynamics in the region. There's even talk about a parallel peace agreement to the Abraham Accords called the Cyrus Accords. During his visit, Reza Pahlavi spent time at historical and religious sites around Jerusalem, enjoying the magic of the Holy City. Pahlavi said Iranians are absolutely ready for diplomatic ties with Israel, despite the current tensions between the two countries. He emphasized that the Iranian people do not view Israel as an enemy, and that they share a common history and culture. He also criticized the Iranian regime for its recent policies and called for democratic reforms in his homeland.
My goal to tell the whole world that what you hear from the Iranian regime is not what the Iranian people actually believe.
Pahlavi said the Iranian people aspire to a government that will respect its heritage with the preservation of human rights and respect for religious and cultural diversity, through the restoration of peace and friendship with Israel and Iran's other neighbors.
My compatriots are proud of their history, a history that dates back 2,500 years when Cyrus the Great helped free Jewish slaves and helped rebuild their temples.
A democratic Iran will seek to renew its ties with Israel and our Arab neighbors. In my opinion, that day is closer than ever. And now, shining light from Israel.
When David Ben-Gurion, Israel's first prime minister, cast his gaze upon the Negev desert, he envisioned 5 million people living on its harsh soil.
The Bible tells us in the book of Isaiah, chapter 35, that when the Jewish people return to the land of Israel, that the desert will rejoice and flowers will bloom in the wilderness. Well, here I stand in the northwest corner of the Negev desert, and all around me are flowers blooming here in the wilderness. One thing we're not lacking here in Israel is sunlight. However, we are lacking water. So how is it that 70% of Israel's agriculture is grown in its deserts? Well, through Israeli innovation such as water reclamation, recycling wastewater, and desalinating the water from the Mediterranean Sea that could be used for drinking as well as irrigation, we've been able to make the desert bloom. Let's now meet Ori Alon, a farmer in the desert who's using this Israeli agrotech that's been innovated here in Israel to help him make this biblical prophecy become a reality. Hey, Ori.
Hey, how are you, David?
I'm doing great, thank God. We're so excited to learn how you're using Israeli innovation in the field of agrotech to make the desert bloom.
So I'm happy to take you to the greenhouse of the cherry tomato they develop in Israel. Let's go there, but on the way you should eat some chili.
They look amazing.
They are.
Wow, these cherry tomato plants are incredible. They're so high.
We grow them in a desert. That's what's unique. And through the irrigation system, we add the nutrient to the soil.
And this irrigation system, I'm assuming it's the Israeli innovation of drip irrigation?
Yes, it is. It's developed in Israel. Look here how it's working. You can see now that we open the water through the computer. And every 20 centimeters, we have one drop that gives the same amount of water to every plant. In this situation, even if we grow on a hill, the plant on the top and the down get the same amount of water.
Wow, that's incredible. So inside the hose, you have some type of regulator.
Yes, you can see it over here that it's not just a hole in a pipe. Inside it, you can see this filter that filtering the water, and this what make it very unique even when the water is very dirty.
So what you've been able to do here is literally grow whatever you want through drip irrigation.
Yes, it's desert soil, no any nutrient inside this soil. So we have computer that check how many nutrients the plant need, and through the irrigation system, we add a chemical fertilizer that fit for grow tomato or other crops.
Wow.
We have here.
That's amazing. Do you have any other types of innovation that you use here at the farm?
Yes, in another place we don't use soil at all. We grow up in the air. I show you it in the strawberry.
Wow, these strawberries look absolutely amazing. They taste incredible. And they're growing in the air and without soil. How is this all possible?
We grow here in a special tube, and in this tube we have coconut husk. This is coconut husk, not the part of the coconut. This one, the out part of the coconut. We take it in Sri Lanka, squeeze it, and put it in these bags, irrigate it with drip irrigation system. The rest of the water go inside this tunnel, and because we have angle over there, we can recycling the water.
Not one drop is being wasted. Folks, when visiting Israel, you can't leave without coming here where you get to pick and taste the produce and learn how we've been able to make the desert bloom.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Rebecca Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan El Rom, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.